That's what I was going to do. You're recording it? Okay, that's right. Continue. Should I get right here? All right, welcome to the 2020 DPMA Virtual Retreat. So glad for those that have decided to come and share with us in person, food, and those on Zoom. It's going to be a little bit different. Usually we have a little fun vacation and go up to the Pine Valley Cabin for the weekend and go hiking and have some team building experiences and all that. But thanks to Mr. COVID or Mrs. or COVID, we ain't doing that. So, what's that? Nice. All right, so today we're going to be doing two things. We're going to first start off and just talking about pre-med during COVID times, how you have to adjust and whatnot. And then we're going to have some of those that are applying to med school this year talk about that whole process, answer any questions so you can kind of get an idea of what that's like as well. All right, so what are the challenges because of COVID-19 when it comes to doing pre-med?
Shadowing.
That is correct. Nice. Right? Shadowing's closed. Hospital won't allow shadowing. You can find some clinics that might be able to, but overall, shadowing has been shut down, so it's really difficult. What else?
Clinical hours.
Very good. Exposure. Same thing, right? Doctors, volunteer clinics, not really taking people. You know, if you don't already have a job in the medical field, it's really hard to find these during this time. What else?
Research opportunities.
Nope, you're wrong. Volunteer and community service, right? Usually when you're doing these, you're going out into the community, you're interacting with people, you're close proximity, all that kind of fun stuff. So COVID's kind of shut that down. What else?
Leadership. Are closed.
Research, so close. All right. A lot of our professors actually ended up, go ahead and grab some food at the back. A lot of our professors actually stopped doing some research or minimized how much research they were doing. Over the summer, we had research projects actually shut down, so students couldn't go do research, looking at Landon. And so, that's also been horrible. What else? Someone said it earlier. Leadership experience, right? Because of all this, it's hard to go out and find things to do leadership-wise.
Academics.
Oh.
Academics, right? We're all doing this Zoom stuff. Academics sucks, right? You're trying to figure out how to do things on the fly, changing things up, being partly on campus, sometimes being online, sometimes being virtual.
The only person in class.
How about the MCAT?
Sure.
For those that applied this year, you know how horrible that was. They kept changing dates on you, actually changed how the MCAT was going. And so pretty much everything. With COVID, everything that is traditionally pre-med has really put a wrench in how you go about doing any of this stuff. All right, so how have medical schools adjusted? So medical schools understand the current environment. They're not going to hold you to this high standard, knowing that we're in a global pandemic, the first one since 100 years ago, right? So for example, this is kind of what you would see the requirements for medical school pre-COVID. So you need a job shadowing, patient exposure, volunteer community service, leadership experience, and research. What they've kind of done now is they've taken those 5 and put them into 3 groups. So now you're seeing more community engagement, which includes leadership and community service, clinical experience, which is more patient exposure and job shadowing, and then intellectual curiosity. So instead of just research, they're expanding it to be more that, yes, you could do research. Maybe you're a performer and you have like performances you do. maybe you go on to go get a master's degree or do some other type of postgraduate education. And so what they're trying to do is make these things a little bit more flexible for you guys as students so that you don't feel like during this pandemic, you're completely getting screwed over to be able to get into med school. And the beauty is that this is a global pandemic, so everyone's having to deal with these. And to be honest, if you want to look at some type of silver lining, here in the state of Utah, things, and especially in southern Utah, things are a lot more open and available than they are in other places in the country. And so you might even have a little bit of an advantage being here in southern Utah compared to being in New York, California, some other places where everything is more strictly shut down and even limit more of these opportunities. All right, another way med schools have adjusted is grades. How many of you absolutely had a horrible time at the end of the spring semester when we went from fully in campus to fully online? All right. Did anyone in here take a pass grade? Awesome. Did anyone take a no credit grade? Did anyone do worse than they would have if they would have just been regular campus classes? Everyone's still, okay, never mind that. I guess I don't even talk to you guys.
People that didn't show up.
What's that?
No, nothing.
Anyways, but not everyone that's the case, right? So when medical schools are going to be looking at your transcript, specifically for the spring 2020, anytime you took a pass grade, they're going to accept that as the grade needed for that requirement. If you took a no credit grade, they're not going to freak out about it. If you had a kind of an overall bad semester, they're not going to worry about it. They're going to understand everything had to go rapidly to online across the nation. It messed with people. It was unexpected. And so don't feel like that's going to be the sore thumb stopping you from getting into medical school. As long as what your semesters previous to that and your semesters after that are all consistent. If you're consistently a good student, but spring 2020, that wasn't the case, you're not going to get docked for that. They understand. They know that's going to be the case. The MCAT had some changes to it. They shortened it. They took out all the auxiliary stuff. So they didn't shorten the questions or how many questions there were. They took out like the survey and all the introductory stuff and lunch. So it was kind of good, but it was also kind of bad. And then they turned around and gave you your test score in 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks. For those that are going to be taking the MCAT in the future, I'm pretty sure this is all going to go back to normal. All right?
4 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's going to go back to 4 weeks, all that kind of stuff. I think it will go back to normal. Now, they haven't made a decision on any of that yet, and we should know sometime next week because that's when they're supposed to be releasing the dates for the next testing cycle. Yes?
I just saw recently somebody posted a response from the MCAT, and they said that it's going back to complete normal.
Yeah.
So that was from the AMC MCAT.
Perfect. That's what I assume would happen. Everything I saw was leading to that. I hadn't seen anything official, so there you go. Breaking news.
Well, they haven't posted on their website, but it was a response to somebody's direct message, so it was
Gotcha.
probably insider information.
Perfect. All right. What can I do as a pre-med during COVID-19 pandemic? I don't know what happens if I hit this button. Okay, here we go. Let me ask you this question. What is the #1 characteristic medical schools are looking for in their applicants? What's the #1 characteristic? Anyone?
Johnny says how much swag you have.
Okay, your swagger. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
That is incorrect.
I got no chance.
What's that? Adaptation. Okay, that's very close.
What's the ambition?
Ambition, a bit. Consistent, that's good.
Resilience.
Resilience, adaptation, or we like to call it Grit. You guys know what grit is, right? Not grits.
Oh.
Not like you're making corn grits and boiling them and having them for breakfast. Grit. So grit is this idea of being able to be resilient, overcoming challenges, adapting to your current environment. And this was before COVID-19. When I would meet with medical school admissions directors, they would talk about how the applications they like to see a lot of are students who had gone through something. That could be academic. That could be something in their life. That could be any type of thing where they had to overcome something. Why would that be important for med school?
So you don't fail med school?
Exactly. Med school is hard, right? If you haven't heard it, pre-med's hard, med school is harder, right? And so if you are going to be accepted into a medical program, they're going to want to make sure that you're going to make it the whole 4 years, graduate, and move on to your residency and become a doctor. Why would a medical school want that?
Because they're investing in you.
Exactly. They're investing in you, even though you're paying them lots of money. It's this weird kind of investment that happens. But each year they have to post how many of their students graduated, how many of their students matched. And for a state-funded school, that's going to determine how much money they get funded for their program. For a private school, they require more people to want to apply and get into their program. And if they have really bad numbers, people aren't going to apply and try to get into their program. And so having this idea of grit, where something in your life has kind of gotten in your way and you overcame it, that shows that, hey, when you're into med school and something hard comes your way, you're probably going to push through and overcome it. And so even though academics is important, even though having empathy and understanding how to interact with your patients is extremely important, this is the #1 characteristics I hear all the time from these admission officers. Having that grit, that ability to overcome challenges. All right, here's your trivia Kahoot question. What life/world-changing event happened in the 1990s?
I was born.
Not quite world-changing. Well, it depends. We'll see what.
Life-changing.
Let's see what you
It's
did.
life-changing. I mean,
The LA riots.
LA riots. Good question. Good answer.
good question.
Not the right answer. And it wasn't OJ, I'll tell you that. I'll give you a hint. We're all utilizing it right now. The internet. Awesome. All right. So I grew up in the 90s. I was a preteen teenager in the 90s. And in 1994, when I was 12 years old,
1994, you're 12?
correct. Do the math. When was I born?
82.
There you go.
Oh,
How old am I now?
really old.
Wow.
Wow.
Does this have a blur if I do something? Does it automatically blur? Thank you. 38 is the right answer. Anyways, so when I was 12 years old, internet came to town. And my best friend, his family was the first person to get the internet. And none of us all got the internet until like 2 years later. But it was the most cool thing. It was this brand new toy that we got to play with. And we just thought it was awesome and amazing. And we learned pretty much in our preteen, teenage years how the internet worked, how everything happens with it, and how it was going to change the world as we know it. Well, what happened to those people who were in their 20s or their 30s or even the 40s when the internet came to town? They didn't quite adjust and adapt to it just as well. And so you have a lot of the older generation, even today, as things get introduced like smartphones and TikTok and all these other things, right? They have a harder time adjusting to it because this is something that just dropped into their plate during and didn't know that it was going to be something that would affect the whole world moving forward, right? So that's what this global pandemic has done as well. by introducing this whole new idea of interacting virtually. Yeah, we were doing it before, but now all of a sudden everyone was doing it. And for some people, it's throwing you through a loop. My daughter is 12 years old right now, and she thinks it's the coolest thing in the world. She can interact with her friends. She either FaceTimes on her cell phone or goes on the computer and FaceTimes with her friends and her teachers and everything like that. And she's understanding it. And I think her and her generation are just going to be experts at this, and it's going to be not a thing to them. But for you guys you've grown up in high school and even maybe your first year or two in college of learning one certain way. Now there's something brand new being put on you. And this gives you an opportunity now to say, hey, here's this big thing in my way. So some of you may have not had a big life-changing event where you had to overcome something, right? You might have been thinking when I said, oh, grit's number one, you're like, crap, I've had it pretty easy my whole life. Or maybe some of you are out there like, damn, I've had a lot of grit, right? So one of those two things. But if you are one of those individuals that maybe have had things a little bit easier in your life, well, guess what? It's no longer easy. And so this gives you an opportunity now to take this global pandemic and standing in your way from getting into med school and saying, you know what, I'm going to persevere. I'm going to innovate. I'm going to evolve. I'm going to find existing and create new opportunities so that while other people might go back to this slide here and say, oh, that's all right. Med school's making it easier for us to get into med school, right? So some people are going to see that and be like, okay, I don't really need to do anything right now. I can just chill, wait till this pandemic's over, and then I'll go do all those things again. And they'll see this hole in my application, but they'll say, oh, it's COVID, so I'll be fine. Well, what happens if someone else is applying to med school, and instead of a hole in their application during this 9 months to 18 months, depending on how long this is going to last, all of a sudden they have all these cool, unique experiences. They were able to take things on. They were able to do things that now they didn't let this pandemic slow them down. They evolved, they adapted, they showed that perseverance, that grit. That's where you guys have an opportunity now. Another big thing I want to kind of put out there, and this might even be for those that are currently looking to apply, I'm going to guess that when you're having interviews this year, even next year if you're applying, or the years after, they're going to think, hey, you must be pre-med. We just lived through this global pandemic. Tell me what you know about the coronavirus. If you know nothing about the coronavirus or the pandemic or anything of that nature, nothing more than just like the regular things you can just think about, like that's on the news about whether or not you should wear a mask or not. If you don't know maybe some of these more unique things about the virus, what type of virus is it? What are the most common symptoms? Why wearing masks and social distancing, hand washing help spread this virus? What's the incubation period? How is it infectious? What type of vaccines are being developed for it? Are there long-term effects going to be from people who get infected with it? Why are those who are infected with it but are asymptomatic still making this a bad pandemic, right? These are some of the things that you would think most medical doctors know about. And so if you want to become a medical doctor, you should probably know about this, because I guarantee, so I know a few years back when you had the Ebola outbreak and the Zika outbreak and the H1N1, students were always asked in interviews about those viral outbreaks. Why? Because they're very prevalent to modern medicine. And this is millions of times more prevalent than what's happening right now. And so if you're kind of like, oh man, I just hate coronavirus, I just want it to go away, and you don't want to learn about it, I would rethink it. Start looking at all these different types of things. Get to know about it, because you want, when you show up in an interview, you want to be able to say, not only have you had grit and you've overcome all these things and done this, but hey, you understand what's going on medically with this virus. Why is it doing it, what it's doing, what are the effects, you know, all that kind of stuff. You want to be able to sound smart and knowledgeable on this huge medical implication. All right. This is another big thing that happened back in the late 2000s when Obamacare came about. We had so many people that were against Obamacare that they didn't want to learn about it, and they go and get interviews for medical school, and they say, tell us about Obamacare, and they had no idea because it was so political. This virus is very political right now. No matter where you fall on it, you should know about it, because as a physician, as a caregiver, as a leader in your community in the future, you should be very educated on these areas that specifically deal with medicine and the health of the population. I think that might be all. Any questions?
So you said evolve.
Yes,
But it is, to my understanding, that individuals cannot evolve.
correct. So that's why you need to evolve as a community here, as DPMA,
Okay.
right?
I can make that happen.
That's good.
Right? So you as a presidency, you need to have those, give those opportunities.
So how long are they gonna be legal?
So it's all going to be how long this goes for, right? So if my projections based off all the research I've done, I work for Soft Cell Biological, I interact a lot with our president there who's a virologist, and we have conversations, we share articles back and forth all the time, and I would say this is probably going to be happening for another 12 months from now. You know, maybe in different stages, we might get a vaccine sometime the end of this year. All of your emergency workers and your healthcare workers and maybe teachers will probably be the first ones to get it. But by the time you probably are getting as a student, might not be until the end of the spring semester, right? And so then maybe as people start to get it throughout the summer, then we might see maybe more things available around this time to be normal. Like nothing's ever going to go back to normal, right? So for all of you that are a lot younger than I am, not only you had the internet, but in 2001 you had 9/11 happen. We're completely changed as a country because of 9/11 as well. Our whole world will completely be changed because of COVID-19. And so don't just think, oh yeah, I'm going to go back to my normal life. Realize there's going to be major aspects of what we're doing now that are still going to be in the future. And that's why you should try to persevere and learn and figure out how to deal with this, because that's going to put you above the next person that's not only applying for medical school, but then applying to residency and then becoming a doctor, right? You want to be able to show that you're on the cutting edge, not trying to figure it out. Great question. So to continue with that question, med schools are probably going to be lenient based off of that. But realize, like I said, yeah, they'll probably still accept people that maybe didn't have as much stuff. But those that do stuff during this time, you're going to stand out so much more than all the other applicants that didn't do anything. They're going to see big holes in applications, because how the AMCAS works and the what's it called, AACOMAS and the DPMA, whatever the Texas one is, it shows patterns. That's why it takes like 3 weeks for your stuff to be completely processed. It's because people go through, they take all your data and they put it in graphs and patterns. And you don't want a graph that shows this like big hole for 12 months of nothing. Other questions? Awesome. I hope that was informative. I'm going to let Hannah take over and do the second part of this with our appliers.
Thanks, Doug.
Oh, I have to come.
Yes.
Landon, TC, come.
Yes.
Come here. Oh, I don't like talking on Zoom.
I tried.
Nate, could you put on your video and audio if you're there?
Yo.
Okay, so if you guys
Who do we got here?
I can't hear you. Wait. There he is.
Oh, this is gonna be loud.
Oh no, it's gonna be really loud.
No, let her talk.
Nate, can you say hi really quick?
What's up?
There it is.
I don't think you heard you said what's up, not hi.
I'm fine. Okay.
Hi.
Thanks for coming so far. So we have 3 awesome senior, older people than us, not younger than Doug, but older than us, that applied to medical school this last year. So this is Landon, that's Tyler, and then this is Nate. So they're gonna,
You guys wanna-
yeah, scoot this way.
I just don't want to block the.
Scoot this way. Oh,
I
could.
can't see anything.
Here, I
Can you see them now?
There we go. We're in, dude.
There we go.
We're in.
Oh,
So they're gonna talk. I gave Landon some questions, and then he'll talk about his application process and like what he thought of it, and TC and they will also give their input. Please feel free to to ask any questions to them about the process and stuff. And I'll let you guys have the floor.
Okay. Well, first, not to start it off on a majorly negative note, the application process sucks. And I only did AMCAS, like I didn't do TD, the Texas one, or I don't know who. You did. Nate did all 3. Awesome.
I did just TMDS and MCAS.
Okay. Yeah, like if I would have known anything kind of going into it initially, it probably would have been how big of an undertaking it is to do everything it takes to apply, to get everything ready, kind of track everything down, and maybe even more so since I was a non-trad applicant. But I will say that Doug is the go-to guy for when you're applying. That dude, I basically talked me off the ledge like 18 times. So one of the first questions that I'm sure everybody can kind of address is the whole process of the AMCAS application. I mean, obviously it starts out with you're submitting your primary, but I think the big things to take away from that is your personal statement and the 15 activities you have to come up with, each of which have, I can't remember the character limit.
Not very much.
It's not very much for the activity descriptions, but you can choose 3 as your most meaningful, and those I think matter. We were talking about some of that in the back kind of to start, but the longest part for me was for sure the personal statement. I worked on that for probably 6 months, and a few people in here have read that personal statement, and it's kind of hard, I think, because you have to get pretty personal and you kind of have to open up about so many things that you never really addressed and wanted to talk about. It gets I feel like a bit raw. So yeah, prepare for that. But what do you guys think
About the application?
well, maybe what the biggest part of the primary was?
Yeah, so like kind of what Landon talked about, you have to realize that it's going to take a long time to fill out. So my primary application, you have to go through and you have to put every class in, every grade in, and you have to write those experiences you talked about in your personal statement. So it's not something you can just sit down and do in a weekend. It definitely takes a long time to fill out the application. So definitely give yourself enough time. I don't know on normal years what the application deadline is.
I can't remember anymore either.
I think we plan June.
We ended up sending it in end of June or something.
Whatever it is, find out and then give yourself a couple weeks at least to fill out your primary. Don't wait till the last second and do it. So that's a big thing. And then also something that really helped me with my application was when you're doing these experiences that you're having, your 15 experiences, make sure to be taking notes like in the time that you're doing it. Don't just write down what you did. And then, a year or 2 years from now, when you're filling out your application, like, oh, what did I do there? How'd that work out? That just helped me. Landon obviously didn't think so.
Well, mine is also from 2 years. Like you guys have been doing this your whole life. So I feel like you guys had to pull on stuff from way long ago. But.
Yeah, either way, give yourself enough time for the application.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It took me probably like a solid month of just like doing applications only, but the personal statement is definitely a beast. If you're gonna apply to the Texas schools, they also have a couple additional essays, like they have like an optional essay and then another one. So those definitely, they just take a ton of time. You have tons of rough drafts, a bunch of people reading them. And yeah, I would definitely say keep track of your hours, take notes on the things that you do. And the biggest thing that I was trying to overcome is you can't just explain what you did. You have to kind of paint a picture and talk about like how it changed you and stuff. If you just like say, oh, I did this, I did that, then it's not going to really stand out or look good. You want to kind of like, you want to show them, not tell them what it is that you did. So kind of paint a picture instead of just describe. And it takes a lot of time to like try and do that. But if you have an experience in particular that you can share, it's kind of more helpful to encompass and give someone a better picture of what your activity entails. And make sure, you have 15 experiences. Make sure you fill every single one of those up, because you're gonna. I mean, if you don't fill them up, it's just you don't look as competitive.
Right. And of the 15, you choose the 3 most meaningful. I didn't choose anything crazy science related. One of my most meaningful experiences was tennis, a hobby that was, I mean, it means the world to me, and it opened up so many doors for me. So hands down, had to be included as my most meaningful experience. And one of the other ones I chose was a research internship that I didn't even do. It was canceled. But to me, it mattered the most because what it symbolized, what it meant to be accepted into something like that when this was never my field. So, it was another story. And sorry, I have to keep looking at my phone to remember the question. So, another question is two questions here that we can maybe tackle. To touch on the experiences, and then that we chose specifically, kind of like the research internship that I didn't do, the tennis. Do you guys have any recommendations for the experiences you did, maybe research or your top 3?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it doesn't really matter that much what your most meaningful experience is, as long as it is something meaningful to you and you can portray it that way, that when they read it, they think, wow, this really changed this applicant. This really made a difference in their life, and this really guided them this way. I mean, don't just pick a meaningful experience because it sounds cool. Make sure that it's something that actually changed you and actually made a difference in your life. So that's what I recommend. Because one of mine that I chose was I did an internship with the team doctor for Dixie State. His name's Dr. Millward. And that was really my first experience with patient care, with actually being able to see patients and actually being able to see a patient-doctor interaction and how that all goes down in the whole process. And that really kind of opened my eyes to what it means to be a physician and like how to go about giving news to people. I mean, a lot of the times the athletes came in and we had to give them some pretty horrible news. A couple athletes came in and had like career-ending injuries. And it was just really awesome and eye-opening to me to be able to see how Dr. Millward handled that information and handled that breaking of that news to these athletes who their whole life is their sport and they're having to stop it forever. And so just seeing like things like that, and that's why it was one of my most meaningful experiences, because it was really something that changed my perspective in the medical field. And so that's what I would recommend for your most meaningful experiences, making sure it's something that actually made a difference in your life and not just some cool experience that happened to you.
Nate, sorry, I forgot to add the second question, and maybe you'll tackle this one too. Not only some of your experiences, but the timeline of when not only you started this whole primary and maybe even secondary application, but how you juggled the studying for the MCAT and classes. Forgot to mention that. That was the second question. That was my bad.
Yeah, along the lines of the first question, I would say too, you have to think about, maybe along with thinking about what you want to put in your personal statement, you don't want to just keep repeating yourself in your most meaningful experiences. So it's kind of good to if you have a personal experience, then maybe you might want to include something different in your most meaningful, just so you're not repeating yourself, because they would just read it again and just be confused, and they want to see more of you. So I'd keep that in mind as well. As far as, you have to get the activities and experiences done like as soon as possible. The one thing I put off too much was research. And so, it's hard to find research, and there's more opportunities at Dixie now, I think, than ever, but it's still tough. So I would definitely try and do that early as possible. And I mean, this year was just messed up. I had a baby in the middle of it all too, and so that was even more messed up. But
I'm sure she's a child.
Yeah,
I can't hear what people are saying, but
they're making fun of you at the moment for having a child, apparently.
yeah. No, it was tough though. It really was tough. And I would say, like, I initially planned on taking the MCAT in March, and I would almost recommend, if you can, have an easy semester in that spring semester when you want to take the MCAT. I would try to. I'm like 5 years for my undergraduate, so I kind of had that flexibility. But if you can do something like that, I think it'd be really helpful, and take the MCAT early, in March. I don't think they do them in April, right? Or maybe they do April, May, sometime in then. And and then, you can get the MCAT out of the way so that, come May, you can just focus all on the application. Because you're going to need a lot of time. It's a full-time job trying to do the application. And then secondaries are another beast on their own.
Any questions from you guys?
I have a question from the chat.
Yeah.
So they wanted to know how specific did you go into your experiences, either volunteering, research, like how much information, details did you put into that? And what experiences?
So my volunteer experience was also, so when you choose your most meaningful, I kind of harping on the most meaningful experiences, you not only have to give the initial description, you then have to give a longer description about why it's the most meaningful. So you still have to give that generic kind of show what you did, but then you have to get real specific on those most meaningful. I guess all right, my career in finance, I told a story from that experience, and it had to deal with passing, it was during my internship. You had to pass your Series 7 and your Series 66, which are national brokerage and advising exams within that industry. However, at the internship, if you didn't pass those, if you didn't pass the 7, the first one, which was a 7-hour-long exam with 250 questions, you're fired. Your internship's over. We had 12 when we started, 3 after the test. So I told that story about this is what it was like, but then it was almost even worse after that. It was so cutthroat after, and it was never really fulfilling. And so I told maybe a story that was somewhat negative, but ended on a positive note that led me to medicine, kind of helped push me this way, but yet very intense at the same time. So I didn't say, oh, I traded X amount of dollars worth of stocks and I placed this many trades a day and I represented this company. It was a story about it and what it was like in that limited description.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. So the question kind of was phrased that how much detail did you go into your activity section of your application?
The hard thing for me is there is a character limit on your activities, and it's really not that much. Do you remember what it was? It's 750?
Yeah, it's really not that much. You have to be really concise with whatever you're going to tell them.
So I think it's 750 characters, and so characters include spaces, punctuation, everything, every letter, every punctuation, every space. And so you end up being able to write maybe a paragraph and a half. So you don't really have a whole lot of time to go in a lot of detail. And so I would suggest to get past all the fluff. Don't put in a lot of filler about what it was, but mainly focus on how it helped you and how it changed you, instead of what Lana said. He didn't talk about dollar amounts or the actual what he did. He talked about what it meant to him in his short experience. So
it was only a year.
I meant short writing.
It's okay, no big deal. I get it.
He got fired.
I would agree. I guess I'd just echo those guys. I mean, make it. You definitely don't have a lot of space, and again for the Texas ones, it's a lot shorter. I think you guys are right. It's 750 for AMCAS, and then the Texas schools were 300 characters. So it was 3 sentences max. So yeah, you just got to cut out the fluff, put what's most important, and yeah.
What else you guys got?
I have a follow-up question to that. They wanted to know, is it fine to look illiterate to save on characters?
I would say no.
For the record,
Absolutely not.
so I was reading through my AMCAS application again, and on this exact finance experience, this was the only grammar mistake I think I made on my application, but I did make one. It must have been when I was editing it, and I don't know how it happened, but I began to understood. But I meant to eliminate the I began to start with either I now understood or I understood. But I was like, seriously? And I just read this. This was 2 nights ago, or last night. I was reading it last night, trying to refresh my memory about half the things I said. It's been so long. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And I mean, everything else looked good, but that was worrisome. So don't make grammar mistakes. But
I think I understood.
I hope they didn't read that one. They must have just looked over it. So
One thing I did is I didn't like indent paragraphs or make like multiple paragraphs. I just wrote a block, so that saves a couple characters.
right.
And they talk about how it doesn't matter, like formatting doesn't matter all that much. So
Right.
that saves characters. I'm not a ton, but
Yeah, I think they do. I read somewhere that they do recommend doing like resume format, so you can say just like start a sentence with, a past tense verb. So you could say like understood the difference between serving, just diagnosing a patient and really taking care of them or whatever. You could say something like that, I think, and get away with it. But yeah, there's ways to get around it.
You say understood just to take a stab at me? I get it. No big deal. I'm a human punching bag up here, so please.
All right. Letters of recommendation. What do you have?
Well,
Wow.
Doing hands?
People.
Oh, it's just John.
It was Johnny and Cody. There were 2 hands up.
Okay, they can go first.
So I don't know if this is cool for everyone else, but it seems a little overwhelming to come up with 15 experiences. That seems like kind of a lot. How difficult was that for you?
So for me, I started doing my experiences in like my sophomore year. So I did mine over this span of 3 years. And so it really wasn't that difficult. That's why we recommend you start early, start serving, start volunteering, start doing things like that. Start looking for research as soon as you can, because it's really hard to jam in 15 experiences in a year and a half or 2 years.
Well,
Except unless you land in psychology.
it's not impossible. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say schools I think want to see commitment. They want to see long-term. A lot of the secondaries I saw, they said don't even list it unless it's more than 6 months or whatever. So you want to get in early. And if you get in early, then hopefully you can get leadership experiences. They love seeing where you've had a service experience turn into a leadership experience, and things like that. So, Johnny, you shouldn't have any problems, but I think you just got to start early and find every opportunity you can, and you'll survive somehow.
Just do one experience. DPMA treasurer. That's it.
Cody.
Okay, hold on. I think Doug had a thought in the middle.
I was just gonna say that most of them say experiences since you graduated high school, so you can't do anything when you were in high school or previous. And then some schools say within the last 4 years. Make sure you're not trying to pull in something you did, when you were in junior high and, math Girl Scouts or something, right? So make sure
That was my
they
most
want to see
meaningful.
relevant. It's all about what have you done for me lately.
Yeah, Cody.
Okay, so let's say next year everything goes back to normal and you guys are applying that year. How much do you guys think you would spend in MCAT prep, in applying to and from interviews, in
Talking about money.
applications? What do you think the total cost for you guys would be during the whole application process?
Like cost and did you say time?
Just cost.
Just cost.
So it depends on how much you want to study. Like, I guess your method of studying. So I self-studied for the MCAT, so I didn't spend that much money, but I know like Chance spent like a couple $1,000s on an MCAT prep course. So it just depends on kind of what your best learning is. Are you learning the best for the MCAT at least?
I self-studied as well, but the application process was, I think, total after secondaries was roughly $4,000-ish. And then like if interviews, you could probably tack on a few extra thousand on top of that, you know, like because hotel and flight, rental car, whatever. And, you know, you'll be one of those guys with a lot of interviews. I'm sure all of you will. So save your pennies now.
Hey, Len, and how many schools did you apply to?
I applied to 18 total, but I sent back like 12 secondaries. I decided to not send 6 secondaries back to places like Harvard. Even they did send a secondary, but I think they sent it to everybody. The NYUs, the Cornells, I was like, okay, didn't do as hot as I wanted on the MCAT, so let's pull that one back. And then I became a bit more selective on this other secondaries that I got back that made sense and that I think things would line up a bit better with.
So like the bare minimum, so it's $100 per school to send your primary, and then it's about $100 for your secondary as well.
Some schools were $150.
Yeah, so it's roughly $200 per school that you apply to. So it also depends on how many places you apply, how much
So
is
you don't want to apply to like 200 schools.
Well, on your primary application, actually, that's a good point. When you scroll all the way to the bottom, you see the PDF. It's basically what they see, although they have different functions with it. They see all the schools you applied to. It's not a unknown thing for them for these med schools. So, and now it makes sense all these times you told me that maybe you shouldn't apply to more than 20, because when you apply to too many, now it looks like you're just trying to see what sticks. Where's the connection? Why are you applying to these places? And you have to be a bit selective. Like you're not going to apply to, that's why it's so hard to get into Texas, right? Like if you have no connections there, you either have to be literally perfect or born and raised in Texas. Got to be, what's his name? Is that Ted Cruz? Is he in
Texas Ranger?
Yeah, whatever. He's got to be somebody's son, basically, or daughter.
Not me though. I'm gonna be imperfect and still go there.
You want to go to Texas?
He's going to San Antonio.
San Antonio.
We'll see. We'll see.
Texas schools on MCAS too.
Baylor, right? Baylor's one of the
Baylor and
MCAS
Texas
schools.
Tech, you're on MCAS. If you want to.
No, but it's expensive. I mean, I think all together, I've definitely spent like $5,000 easily, and it would. I mean, that's the one advantage I feel like we have with this year is that interviews are online. Even though I'm not looking forward to online interviews, but save some money there. But it's definitely going to be. I was told to brace myself for like $10,000 before it's all over, because I mean, even still, we're going to be traveling to figure out where we really want to go and do second looks and stuff like that. So it's pretty expensive.
There's a question over here.
Oh,
The front. She's been raising her hand all day.
sorry.
No, you're good. I don't know if this is this. But how do you find your research opportunities, or how do you even know what you want to research? Really?
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. There's actual nerds in here, so just kind of how it goes. That's kind of the territory. You know, I was kind of lucky. Some people kind of included me on their research experiments. Sheena right here, over the summer when mine was canceled, and then I have a friend who's a spinal surgeon who kind of helped me out get quite a few hours through clinical research. And then now I'm doing research under Dr. Meyer, through the university, like credit wise. And I think it just kind of comes down to getting your name out there and kind of hoping somebody likes you. And if you're like me, the one of 2 people in this world who actually like me happens to conduct research. So that was lucky. That's what I think.
Like, what did you do along with research? What entails in the organization?
Hey, I have something to add to that research thing. So basically, a bunch of the docs that I
test or anything?
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks. Fantastic.
Keep going, Jessica.
I think her boss came in.
Oh,
It's asking if you need anything or something.
I'm actually at work, okay? We had a patient come in. So basically then, a lot of the docs that I work with then, they were talking about different research projects that they're working on, and one of them said to me, they're like, it's just super hard to find research assistants right now, so we've had to shut down a lot of research. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, I would help you with research. And so he's like, if you'll help me, then I'll start my research back up. And so he just started his research back up, and I'm helping him now on it. And it's been really fun, but yeah, so just like talk to docs still, even though they're not letting, everybody's kind of shut down for COVID and stuff, then they like virtual research assistants.
I guess something that I would put in. So for me, I didn't know a whole lot of people that did research. That was one thing. I know that maybe some of you are like that. What I would recommend is to get to know the professors around campus. There's a lot of professors that do research that you wouldn't like. I didn't think that there was very many that did, but there are. And I know that's how me and Nate both, we got our research through. So we're exercise science majors. And when they build this new building over here, they have a biomechanics lab in it. And that's how I got my research, is because I knew the professors from my 4-year degree. I'd known them for a long time. And as soon as they opened the lab, they started doing research. And it was an easy in because I knew my professor. I was good friends with him and let me in. So
I'm beginning to realize you wanted to know what we actually did, though, huh? Nate?
Yeah, I would. So I really tried to do precision genomics and like the hereditary gene study and stuff. I was not so fortunate to get in, but I tried like 4 different times in 4 different ways. But the one thing that I did was with Tyler and doing, we did like a pitching study with the biomechanics lab in the new HPC. Travis Ficklin does tons of research. He's always looking for stuff. I believe they had a BASS lab meeting this morning, didn't they, Tyler?
I do not know.
Were you guys in
They
the
did, I think. They had a meeting this morning. But yeah, no, Dr. Ficklin's doing research a lot. So that was my experience. I only had 1 research experience.
My stuff has been, you insert a pipette, you lift up the fluid, and you screw it up. I screw it up. You miss where you're supposed to put it, and then they have to restart. Like, I seriously did it the first day of research this semester. The last part of it, I take up those just tiny amount, 20 microliters, the last part, and I miss. But it kind of goes in some of them, and so we had to restart.
It was like a 2-hour prep. It was a 2-hour prep. So you prepped this thing for 2 hours, and the last possible second you could mess it up. You messed it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
that's what research is probably like, which is why it sucks.
But you also, on top of that, you don't have to do boring research. So like me and Nate, ours was with Dixie State. You don't have to do boring research like Landon.
I didn't say it was boring.
He said he sucks at it. Okay.
You don't have to be good at stuff. So,
Yeah.
so what we did is we had the DSU baseball pitchers come in, and we did like measurements with the force plate and like joint angles, went into joint angles like muscle tension forces and all that stuff, and we had them pitch the baseball, and they have a motion capture system, and we analyzed their data, slow motion, and did all that fun stuff. So my research was actually enjoyable. So you can do research in things that you're interested in. And so it was really nice because that was my major. That's what I've been learning about for 5 years, and it's something that I got to do research in, and it was actually enjoyable. So yeah.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Leading up to your research, does it matter what the research has to be in?
It doesn't have to be in a medical field.
Because I did research, but in the behavioral science.
Yeah.
You definitely want to ask Doug about that. Doug's the guy who knows how to get into medical school. We just know how to apply.
Behavioral science research does count as long as it still follows the scientific method. So what was the research?
I did one for 6 months. And,
Question?
it was more about organizational studying measures, social tactics. It was a while ago, in 2017. I do have my PhD.
As long as you're collecting data, you're analyzing the data, all that kind of stuff, like the traditional scientific method, there's a problem, this is my hypothesis, this is the experiment we ran, or observation. evaluation we did, and then you analyze that data from it, yes, that works. So you could be collecting fecal matter from rodents, which I wouldn't suggest, and to determine that, or you could be in a lab or doing something like that. As long as it's research.
You said you had a second question?
So you said that for your 15 experiences, is there like a certain amount of period of time that we can, go?
Doug says nothing from high school. And most applicate, like on your secondaries, they'll say in the past 5 years or 4 years. So it'll give you a time frame on secondaries usually, but the primary, it's 5 years, I think, right? The past 5 years. So by the time you apply, just keep that in mind. For example, I had one experience as a volunteer tax preparer for low-income families in Salt Lake City. That's right on the tail end of the 5 years. But it was a crucial experience to me, and I feel like it was a great experience. And I wrote about that. But if, for example, if I don't get in this cycle and I reapply, I can't use it because now we're beyond 5 years.
So you know how you get around that?
Change the date.
You get around that honestly?
Nope, not possible.
So you put it in your personal statement.
Oh,
Your personal statement can be anything. It can start from when you were born. It can start from your grandpa was born, right? Your personal statement is your personal statement of how you got to where you are now.
that's right.
So we can include high school stuff. We can include all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But your experiences are all within that last 4 to 5 years or after high school.
Any?
So if you have to reapply, put in your personal statement.
Yes.
Wait
put-
until Landon replies.
You put it in your personal statement. That's a legal disclaimer that Doug just gave me right there saying I have to say that. Don't change the dates.
It's recorded.
Yeah, well, I was also because since I'm looking about applying to medical school around 2022.
Assuming we're all still alive.
Was like in 2017.
So you'll be right there. It's 5 years.
5 years.
Just put it at the end of the year. Just kidding. Colton, I think, had a question like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's okay. So how important do you think like letters of recommendation were for you? And like, how'd you kind of get close with professors to get that good letter?
I can't answer that question because how I became close with the professors who wrote my letters of rec, that is technically, it was alcohol. So I won't tell you who my letters of recs are, but through traditional
I want
methods.
to write you a letter, Rick.
Hey, Doug, let's go. The other letter of rec was a spine surgeon down in Arizona. Him and I became close over the course of a year through tennis. So that's, I can't go into my details. So that's you guys. Just saying it like it's honest truth. It's a friendly night out at the bar. So,
Yeah, I would say in response to that, just, get close to Doug. He'll hook you up. And definitely find a few professors, though. You're going to need professors who, you just really excelled in the class. You went above and beyond. Even if it's someone who you were a TA for, that's another good way to do it. Just be a good person, and people will want to write good letters for you, I think. There's usually, I think, a requirement for a certain amount of teachers. If you have a research mentor, I know is one that the U wants to see, and then like just a personal friend, or not just a friend off the street, but it's like someone who can really vouch for your good attributes and things. So definitely keep that in mind. Make a list of people who you think who you might want to write a letter for you, and make sure that you're kind of reinforcing those relationships over the next couple of years, and let them know well in advance if you want them to write a letter for you, so that they're more observant of what you're doing and your behavior and things like that. I think would help them a lot.
I know there's probably more questions here, but Hannah and Skylar are giving us that, hey, that's enough.
No, it's a joke.
Yeah, that was
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Meyer told Sheena to like.
Oh,
Shut up.
either way, I think we may have gone over on the time.
You guys, yeah.
So
Really short question. What is like for the letters of recommendation? Like, what's too long to ask like beforehand? Like, how many years in advance?
So I think that they recommend that your letters dated the same year as your application.
yeah,
Just like even if you have like a job shadowing like 3 years before you apply.
let them know that 3 years later you still need a letter.
I didn't know. Okay.
But I bet it'll change over 3 years.
Am I lying, Doug? Is that a good recommendation?
He is lying.
So he definitely signed. No. So there's a really cool thing called Interfolio. Did any of you guys use Interfolio?
I'm planning on doing this once.
So Interfolio, so you can't load a letter onto your application until May. And you're supposed to be hitting send in June. So what happens is in April, you get a whole bunch of students asking their professors for letter recommendation. And now all of a sudden they're trying to write like 4 or 5 or maybe 10 letters of recommendation all within a couple of weeks. And the letter might not be as good. So Interfolio is a third-party letter gatherer that allows you to upload, your professors upload letters at any time. And then once you're open up your MCAT, you can connect it with Interfolio and it'll bring those letters over. I recommend the beginning of your spring semester that you're gonna apply that summer to ask your professors or anyone who needs it and do Interfolio so you can get that out of the way before you get to May.
Yes, because professors forget a lot. My professor, I had to ask him like 10 times, and he got it in like the week before my application got sent in. So definitely give them enough time.
Also, I had an old dude write me a letter, and he was having just a hard time with technology. I had to like go help him submit it and stuff. So bear that in mind too. The process of actually physically submitting the letter is kind of tricky for people who haven't done it before. So keep that in mind.
Any more questions before I dismiss them?
Right. Hey,
Study a ton for the MCAT.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nate.
About the MCAT.
No.
How long do you guys study for?
2 days. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, what did you do the night before?
I took I was supposed to take it in May, but I ended up taking it in June just because of coronavirus and all that. I started studying over Christmas break, so I had like 5 months that I studied. I know some people do more, some people do less. So.
Did you think 5 was solid or?
Yeah, I thought it was good. Well, mostly because I had my plan set to take it in May, and so when it got pushed back, I'd already finished my study plan, and so that kind of sucked. It was definitely stressful having not that much time to study. It just depends on what your strong suits are. Because like for me, psychology, sociology, like I know nothing about that. So that section kind of sucked to study for, and it was pretty overwhelming. And the hard thing with the MCAT is there's so much on it that there's so much to study, and you won't use half of it on the test, but you have to study it anyway just in case. So the more time you have, the less you have to cram, basically, because there's a lot of information on the MCAT.
How did you go about self-studying?
So there's a website called mcatselfprep.com, and that's what I used. It's a free study course. He has modules that he made, and it has every topic on the MCAT, and has links to like videos from a bunch. He basically compiled videos on every topic from a bunch of sites and put it in one place for you. And if you're good, if you learn well watching videos, then I would definitely recommend it. And it's free. So it's free. The videos are free and everything's free about it. But he has flashcard sets that cost $100, and I bought that, and those are really helpful because the video it's laid out so you watch the videos, and then the flashcard sets for those videos are right after it. And so I technically spent $100 studying for the MCAT. So.
And I piggybacked off him and logged into his Quizlet so I could access that for free.
Anyway, so if you like to self-study and if learning from videos is really helpful for you, then I'd use that website. It was awesome. And then also taking a lot of practice tests is very helpful for the MCAT. Not only just getting ready for the information, but getting ready to be able to sit there for 8 hours and take a test.
So build that endurance.
Yeah, got to build the endurance. So I would recommend this. I was taking a practice test a week in the last couple of months. Yeah, so
practice test tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
Anyway, so I was taking them like once a month, like early on, and then after Christmas break, I started taking them more often, and then the last 2 months, I was taking a test a week. So I'd take the test one day, and then the next 2 days, I'd go over the test and go over every question, why I missed it or why I got it right. I think that's really helpful, is to not just look at the ones you got wrong, but look at the ones you got right and know why you got them right, and then also know why you got them wrong. And I took when I was self-studying, I'd look at what I got wrong, and I'd make a list of all the topics that I got wrong, and that's what I would study for the remainder of the week. So that was really helpful for me.
Is there anything you would have changed about your study, like the way you studied?
He would have incorporated alcohol this time.
Oh my God.
Sorry, can't refrain. I can't help it. I can't help it.
No, I actually felt really good about my studying, so I felt like I said, if I did change something, I'd give myself more time. Well, I'd either give myself more time or take an easier semester, because I had like biochem and everything when I was trying to study for the MCAT, so it sucked. Don't do that.
For me, I used it's Blueprint now. It wasn't like outrageous. It was a lot cheaper than Kaplan or Altius. I thought it was worth it because there was, I didn't have like a private tutor or whatever, but I had office hours that I could go ask questions to people, and I learned best just by like listening and kind of like taking in information, taking notes and stuff. Like I'm not a textbook reader. And so that for me was super helpful. Plus it kept me accountable, like having someone tell me what to study and when I needed to study it and stuff. So it kept me more, I can do it. I just need someone to like make the schedule and stuff for me. So that was helpful for me. But I started studying like August of last year for my March date. And then it ended up getting pushed to June. So I was like 10 months of study, which was really a long time, especially like not mentally preparing for that much time. But it definitely, like Tyler said, it ended up benefiting me. Like in March, I wasn't getting the test scores I ended up getting in the end. So the extra time, like just pushing myself was really good. Like towards the end there, I was studying 10 hours a day for the last month. And I ended up taking like 15 practice tests. And so like Tyler said, like definitely would recommend taking a ton of practice tests, I would say at least 10. And, all of them in real life settings, not shortening them or, giving yourself extra time. But it's just practice. Like each section I had to study differently. The science sections were so much more different than the cars section. And for me, the only time I used flashcards was on psych soc. And so I just had to figure out what study methods were better for different sections. But man, it's like such a long process, but it'll pay off because the MCAT's super important. And you just have to be willing to invest a ton of time in it.
I'm not a good standardized test taker. Because I've taken, the LSAT, ACT, the PRE.
You took the LSAT
Yeah.
for law school?
I was going to go to law school, but then I
What?
didn't want to.
Okay.
Anyways, and I didn't do that good. How heavily is the MCAT weighted on your application?
Pretty good. It's pretty important. So that's why we recommend taking practice tests. They'll get you in the mindset and they'll get you ready for it. So, but it depends. You don't have to like blow it out of the water if you have a really good experiences and really good personal statement and things like that, but it definitely doesn't hurt to do well on it.
Yeah.
So.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you guys for coming. I never see you anymore. Thank
Yeah.
Nate.
Yeah, I know. I thought I saw
Well,
you walk in.
I know, it was weird. Okay. You don't have to stay anymore unless you want to win
And
money-ish.
Nate, can you show us the sunset?
Win money.
It looked pretty cool.
Oh, it's so pretty.
yeah. It's nice.
Thank you, Nate.
Okay. All
Peace
right.
out.
Thanks, Nate. Okay, so that kind of concludes like the official-ish part of the seminar. we usually do like, you know, a scavenger hunt or activity when we're out up in the cabin. So we tried to make it more streamlined for us. So we made a Kahoot, and we have 2 prizes. So I guess like the top 2 could get stuff. So Cody's friend, I don't know how this works, but
Yeah.
explain this, and then.
So this is a fill bottle. So what it is in the front stop, there's a soda machine, right? That you have to pay a monthly prescription or subscription to use. Yeah, I know. Subscription. So that bottle gets you a free month and it's a free bottle to fill up as much as you want on soda. So that's like 3-4 sodas a day if you want for a full month. So that's what that is.
And so oh frick. I'm sorry. Okay. And then our second prize is a gift card to Starbucks. So whoever gets first gets to pick what they want. And the other, I'm sorry, I'm so bad at the Zoom thing. And then the second person just gets the leftovers. So it's a conglomerate of different like pre-med topics. We kind of just made it for fun. Hopefully you'll get a kick out of it because we think it's funny and laugh about it. There's some great pictures, but I wish you guys the best. People on Zoom, if you are in Salt Lake, like a one Jessica, if you win, I'll mail you your prize or I'll drop it off at your house when I'm up there. Okay? Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm kind of. How do I do it without? Wait, what?
Can you stop sharing the screen?
How do I stop sharing the screen? It's not shared.
Well, we can see it here too.
projector.
Oh wait.
Projector.
How do I do that? Oh, I could just turn this off for a second.
Okay, there's one question on here that said there wasn't an answer for.
Okay, go.
Can I try to save it? Hold up.
I took the first pack.
Yeah. So keep checking that, and then we'll.
No. Okay. So I can't play the first one.
There's only one.
Oh, the.
I
didn't
already
know.
took it.
Oh.
All right.
Hannah.
This is a
Yeah,
good
I
Kahoot.
got it. I got missed it. I can't play it. Are you taking it?
Doug, you have to play this game too. No, I'm
So
not.
imagine if I asked Meyer for
Sorry, no, just cutting you off.
imagine if I asked Meyer.
Okay, you can play the first part.
You have to share the screen.
I did.
Oh, it's already. Is it combined, Hannibal? So I can still play them. I can still play.
Skylar, you should play too. You wanna watch? Is Doug actually gonna play? Okay.
That's not Doug.
That's you! Doug, you have to play. Doug, you have to play. We made this for you. We did make this. You got a Kahoot? Got it. Okay. We have to let Doug get in. I'm sorry. There's just some great content in there that you'll see and you'll understand. Bye, TC. Thank you so much. This is chaotic.
I started calling him. I know, I do garbage for me. That one for me.
Are you kids ready? Somebody laugh.
Alright, I'm in.
Okay, is everybody in that wants to be in? I'm guessing so. Okay,
Where's Nathan though?
no. Okay, all right, I'm starting, you guys.
Spelled my name wrong.
Doubles.
Or you gals.
No, doubles.
Okay, I'm starting. Ready?
You
Set.
gals.
No goals.
Who came up with four?
Physics question. This is on the MCAT. Not this easy, but
Puma? That's what's their name? The Haas brothers.
ooh, this is gonna be a close call.
Mom created Adidas.
Hold on,
They
please.
literally have.
Sheena, why are you winning?
I know because
That's
the thing is, I can't read. I feel bad.
Multi-select.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know this was an option.
She made it towards it.
Okay, I'm waiting like 10
What are some
seconds.
classes that require for medical? Wait, where's the all the above button?
You have to click them.
That was hard. I had to click
Oh, I
each one
forgot
like
the other
3 times.
You're leaving? Wait, what was the answer?
All of them.
Oh, okay.
Where's the all of them button?
It's all. You have to click all of
I
them.
can click all of them? I told you I don't.
Next.
My bad. It's still 815 points.
I'm gone.
Who's Skeet? Whoever that is. Is that Johnny?
That's Johnny.
Who did all?
I almost put
Would you be kicked out of DPMA if you put?
You know where that is?
I did
In
put it a while ago.
Australia.
Oh,
Say that.
Go golf.
Douglas?
Yeah, that's a streak.
I know this one.
The dream, right?
Skeet is on fire.
I'm coming for you.
Hey, who could it be?
I thought you did the science
Dang.
one. Okay.
Good.
Get it, please.
This was the make or break one, I felt like.
I can't put it right back to me.
Yes! Let's go.
I actually don't know if they give you a periodic table on the MCAT, do they?
I don't think they would give you,
I don't think they give you one on the MCAT, a periodic table.
but this wouldn't be an MCAT question.
I know, but just wondering.
Memorize now.
Right.
159.
I need flashcards.
Oh, Cody.
Just Cody.
Yeah.
What the F?
It is. Second run.
Doubles!
I wanted somebody to actually put Zac Efron.
You know what? I have met Zac Efron.
No way.
You
I just
have?
want you all to know this. I'll tell you the story after this second.
Questions.
Oh. You should have put.
It's phosphorus.
Doug!
I did baloney.
I always took the task, I'm not gonna lie. I know, I was like, oh.
Okay. Oh,
Oh, that's.
Douglas.
Yes!
Douglas. Douglas is back on top.
The next one.
What are some?
I get the green one. I thought it was select all.
I think Cody's.
Okay, memes are definitely.
Well, what's your face in
Yeah.
that?
Okay, we tried,
I
but
just had the last 5 questions. This is the ones I put in.
the last 5 are apparently really hard.
They are.
Yeah, I'm not ready.
There's a multiple select
I
again.
like these.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I wanted to put a bowl cut test.
I will never do that.
Ball.
I selected all of them,
Part one.
but nobody likes your current
So
haircut,
in the
Doug.
90s, just so you know.
Can you point that out again?
Okay.
Your current haircut got the least amount.
Oh my gosh. Apparently I need to go to the hairdresser. I need my barber.
Every single
Once a week?
Yeah.
A lot, probably two.
Only when I fail.
I probably see you once a week.
Yeah.
I only see Doug when I fail a class.
Wait, you've never failed a class.
Shut up, Doug. I've never seen. Okay.
Oh my gosh. I love how someone just put you on my face. Look how bad the picture is.
It wasn't like I failed.
Oh!
I told you the Las Vegas one confused.
No.
Vegas was my next guess. You never know.
Hey, but what happens if it stays there?
I don't know.
But it wouldn't be on
But I
Vegas.
still don't
Oh, shoot.
I want to see how many. Oh,
Oh.
Doug will
Come on, you
chill
gal.
out.
These are like genuine points.
Doggles. Who got to
Lady Gaga.
Aaron Davis.
You put that all going
I know. I was gonna put something else. Oh, sorry. I was gonna.
To see his binder full of women.
See? I told you
It is true.
You have Reese? She said
So that's where it's
not
The
real.
last
Once
time I
a week.
read.
Have you guys had OChem yet? Okay. So
Or you're like totally torturing me.
So resonance is a thing that you'll learn about, but people are always like resonance is false or resonance is like not real and versus real. So it's kind of just a debate between who's your teacher.
On Monday, ask
I mean,
Reese.
it's not necessarily a debate every day of my life.
It's like,
No,
But it's not real.
it depends who you ask.
Okay, but are viruses alive?
Oh,
Oh.
it is organic. So yeah, we have a virologist. Oh,
See, we're
if
very.
it's an organic substance, then yes, it's alive.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wait a second.
No.
What are you considering living? See, that's the question.
No.
What's your criteria for living?
We should have had a debate.
Function on its own, you know, that has to have a host. It's not.
There's some
Oh,
bacteria
so
that
they-
have to have a host. Are they not living?
I'm gonna go with they're not living.
They're so living.
But viruses can technically live on their own. They just thrive. They reproduce themselves.
Oh, yeah,
Reproduction
the
is
whole
one of
time.
those characteristics of life.
Oh,
True.
They
But I
lost.
agree they're living.
but so are you saying that mules aren't living?
Mules just are not a species.
But they're not living if they can't reproduce.
They are. They're reproducing all the time. They make new cells in their bodies all the
Oh
time.
my god.
Sorry.
Thanks for
I've
backing me up,
had
Doug.
all these arguments. with
Okay,
people.
I'm clicking next question,
Yeah.
you debaters.
Okay, next.
Yeah, please put that up.
Kim said watching Grey's Anatomy.
Okay, I think these are the start of the harder ones.
I hope not.
Oh no.
No.
Oh no, this is not. Never mind, we're good.
Because it's like meat.
It's just like a
Thanks so
Thanks.
That's her, not me.
Like how green was just the chloroplast. Nothing else.
We ran out.
I'm almost 1,000. Oh my goodness. I used to know this.
I
$2.29.
That's how much it is at Chipotle.
All right, I might jump up in here.
It's $2.29.
I'm 1,000.
I don't know, it was.
This is a good transition.
Mine says pure genius.
Yeah, mine says you're an
Oh,
idiot.
shoot, sorry, I went so fast.
Wait.
Oh, shoot. I thought you changed it.
I clicked both answers were acceptable.
So, healed.
I just love seeing the torch you guys go through.
Okay.
Makes me feel like I'm
Oh,
in the
no.
middle of life.
All right, here we go. Now I'm getting
No, we're not.
Oh, I know this. Maybe.
Oh, this is interesting.
Oh. So these are like from an actual medical school exam. So you can guess. This is kind of just for fun. Okay, sorry. Okay. I could go into detail, but we're not gonna. I won't lecture. That's not fun.
No.
Oh.
Still in ninth place.
Oh. Okay.
I don't like this. Hey, quiet down back there.
I think. It's that one or swear?
I got it right!
So did I, but we never went over that.
Boom.
That's good, Doug. That's solid.
Like Toronto.
Skeet, man.
Oh, Skeet's coming up.
Put your telephone on close to your head with the problems. Oh, I know this one. This is OB.
Oh, man.
Answer not close. It's circle or try.
Yes! The mental biology, bro.
I got them all. Like this one. Freaking nursing school. Come on, clutch. Wow, Skeet's killing it.
Why are you on fire?
Three in a row.
Three in a row.
Double, pick it up.
What?
Not a read at this point.
I don't know what that means. This one. The square. Maybe? Square? Square. Or I think. Oh.
You got that right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Four of you got it right.
I should sleep.
I mean, I got it right.
Playing
You
this.
should just go to med school.
Right.
No MCAT for you.
Thank you.
Hey, Johnny, just don't answer this one.
Okay.
We have to know service plan pressure. We can administer the cleaner pressure. That one? This one? Or okay, this is like you want it this. It's I'm not playing, but I've gotten all the medical one right so far. Sorry, I'm so excited.
Okay, let's see.
I love medicine. Okay. Oh, the end. That's the end. Sheena.
Oh.
Oh God. Who's Steve? Of course it's you. Well, yeah.
I like
I like pre-med.